Good day, sir. Today I will present my assessment 1 to 5. So watch until the end of this video. So this is my assessment 1 and I include a title, Understanding Form Handling and Validation in Web Development, Ensuring Data Integrity and Security. Because I read the questions, it's all about form handling and validation, and data integrity and security in Laravel. So I'll start. In this slide, I will discuss why form handling and validation important in web development, particularly in terms of data integrity and security. So first, data integrity. Um, it makes sure the data entered in is accurate, valid, and complete, preventing errors or corrupt data from affecting database. Second is security. It protects against malicious input that could exploit vulnerabilities such as SQL injection or cross-site scripting. And it safeguards sensitive user information. Next is user experience. It helps users input the right data easily. Sorry po. Reducing mistakes and improving the overall interaction with system. So in this slide, I will discuss about some key Laravel features that help prevent security vulnerabilities such as SQL injection and cross-site request forgery when handling form data. So first, CSRF protection. It automatically includes CSRF tokens to protect against cross-site request forgery and validates tokens in every form submission. Second is SQL injection prevention. Laravel Eloquence, ORM, and Query Builder use parameter binding, preventing direct injection of malicious SQL. Third is input sanitization. So built-in request validation filters and clean user inputs. So it uses secure methods to stop harmful SQL code from being added to the database. Sorry. It put input sanitization po pala. It cleans and checks user input to ensure they are safe and valid. Authentication and authorization provides secure user authentication methods and access controls. So it ensures only authorized users can log in and access certain parts of system security. Next slide is I will explain to you how to create a basic form in Laravel using a Blade template and handle its submission in a controller. So first step is to create a form in Blade template. So use the Blade template to create the HTML form. So Blade template is created to define the HTML structure of the form. The form uses CSRF here. Kung nakikita nyo po yung mouse dito, pointer. Sorry. CSRF directive to include a CSRF token, protecting the application from cross-site request forgery attacks. Then the old the old here is used to repopulate the form fields with previous inputs if validation fails, improving the user experience. Then a section is included to display validation errors here, ensuring users know what needs correction. So why is this important? Forms are a key part of web application for user input, proper structure, and feedback. Example, displaying errors, improve usability and accessibility. Next is route. So define a route in routes web.php to show the form handled its submission. So here, in my example, two routes are defined in routes/web.php. So get slash create to show the form using the create method. Then post slash store to handle form submission using the store method. So routes are assigned names, create and store for easier management and usage in application. Example route store. So why is this important? So routes connect the browser's request to the appropriate controller methods. Name routes make the application more maintainable, allowing developers to change routes URLs without updating the logic in multiple places. Next is step 3 is create a controller. So generate a controller to handle the logic. A controller named my form controller is created using the PHP artisan make controller command in the terminal. The create method renders the create.blade.view, create.blade.php view, then validates the form input using Laravel's method, Laravel's validate method here, and redirects back to the form on validation errors with $sign errors populated and process validate data. Example saves it to a database, then redirects back to the form with a success message. So why is this important? The controller separates logic from the view, adhering the MVC, model view controller architecture. Validation in the store method ensures that only clean, well-formed data is processed. Step 4 is display success message. Modify the blade template to show success message. So the blade template is modified to display a success message when the form submission is processed without errors. The session success here, success method retrieves the success message from the session. So why is this important? Providing feedback to users confirms their actions were successful, improving the user experience. Session-based messages persist only for the next request, ensuring clean UI handling. So how it all fits together. So first, the template is serve as the user interface for the form and handles validation feedback. Second is route. It directs the browser's requests to the appropriate controller methods. Third is the controller. It handles business logic, validation, and data processing. Then validation rules ensures the field is not empty. The string validates that the input is a text string. So the max 255 limits the character length to 255. So unique user's email ensures the email is unique in the user's table. And last is session feedback. It improves the user's experience with the error success message. In this slide, I will discuss about how can customizing validation error message improve the user experience in a web application. So, clarity. First is clarity. Clear message help users understand exactly what went wrong. Then second is relevance. Custom message can reflect the context of the form, making them more user-friendly. Third one is professionalism. Reduces generic or overly technical messages, enhancing the app's credibility. And lastly is faster corrections. So when users know what needs fixing, they can quickly address issues. So in my right side, you can see some two examples. This is for example, display validation errors in the brain template here. And below is example for customized validation error message in a controller. So in this part, what are the benefits of centralizing validation logic in Laravel application? And how does this contribute to the maintainability of a web application? So first is reusability. So shared roles, centralized validation roles can be reused across multiple controllers or forms, avoiding redundancy. Consistency ensures all parts of the application enforce the same validation errors, reducing the risk of discrepancies. Second is improved readability. So clear separation. Validation logic is moved out of controllers and views, making bot easier to read and maintain. Focus controllers are cleaner, focusing on business logic rather than repetitive validation code. Third one is easier updates. Central updates. If a validation rule changes, you only need to update in one place. Example, a form request class. So for future proof, accommodates involving business requirements without searching for scattered rules. Number four is customization and extensibility. So custom rules, centralized logic allows defining custom validation rules that can be reused across the application. And error message. You can easily customize error messages for specific rule or fields in one place. Next is scalability. So large application and centralized validation logic scales well with larger applications where forms and controller proliferate. Next is modular development. Validation logic can be modularized, making it easier for teams or work on different parts of the application. And next one is security enhancement. Consistent validation ensures all user inputs are properly validated, reducing the risk of vulnerabilities like SQL injection or XSS. Dry principle avoids accidentally skipping validation in a controller due to oversight. So how this contribute to maintainability? First is easier debugging. Centralized validation logic helps identify issues faster as all rules are in one place. Second is consistency. Developers always know where to find or update validation rules, reducing confusion and mistakes. And lastly, clean architecture. It promotes separation of concerns by decoupling validation from controllers and views, adhering to Laravel's MVC framework. So that's all for the assessment one. And I'm sorry for my voice because I'm not feeling well, sir. The next is my assessment 2, understanding Laravel's authentication system and security measures. So in this first slide is I will discuss the role of middleware in Laravel's authentication system and how does it help protect routes and resources from unauthorized access. So role of middleware in Laravel's authentication system is first filtering requests. Middleware inspects incoming HTTP requests and determines whether the request should proceed further into the application or be denied based on authentication or other criteria. Second is redirecting unauthenticated users. If a user is not authenticated, middleware can redirect them to a login page or return an appropriate response. User role permission management is middleware can check a user's role or permission before granting access to specific routes, ensuring only users with appropriate privileges can perform certain actions. So how middleware protects routes and resources. Middleware in Laravel serves as a filter for HTTP requests entering your application. In the context of authentication, middleware plays a crucial role in securing routes and resources by ensuring that only authorized users can access them. So here's how it works and how it helps protect your application. So first is guarding routes. Middleware is applied to routes using the middleware method. For example, here, the code here. In this case, the middleware ensures that only authenticated users can access the dashboard routes. Second is global or group application. Middleware can be applied globally to all routes or group for a set of related routes. So here, both auth and verified middleware ensure users are authenticated and have verified their email before accessing these routes. And number three is custom middleware for advanced checks. You can create custom middleware for more complex logic, for example, checking the rules. Here is the example code. So in summary, middleware is an essential layer in Laravel's authentication system, acting as a gatekeeper to verify users' authentication and authorization status, thereby protecting routes and resources from unauthorized access. So in this slide, I will discuss about Laravel's built-in authentication system, handle user registration and login, including the management of session tokens and validation of input data. So for user registration, it validates user input using rules, example, email format or required fields. Second is hash password with bcrypt before saving to the database and stores user data securely in the database. Second is user login. So first, it validates credentials, email, and password. Then verifies password using hash check. And lastly, creates a session token to track the login user. Third one is session management. It stores user details in the session for authenticated users and regenerates session tokens after login to prevent session fixation attacks. And lastly, input validation. Uses requests validate to ensure safe and valid data is handled. Next slide is importance of security measures in login and registration forms. So first, SQL injection and prevention. SQL injection is a type of attack where hackers insert malicious SQL code into your form to manipulate or steal data from your database. Also, it can lead to unauthorized access, data leaks, or even complete control over your database. Second is cross-site scripting protection, or XSS. So cross-site scripting is when hackers inject malicious scripts to your form, which can then be executed in the user's browser. Also, this can steal personal data like login credentials or session cookies, or even change the behavior of the site. So these built-in features make it easy to secure your login and registration forms against common vulnerabilities. Next slide is I will discuss to you how to create and apply custom middleware in Laravel to restrict access to specific routes based on user roles such as an admin only route. Create and apply custom middleware in Laravel to restrict access based on user rules. Follow these steps. So first step is create the middleware. Run this artisan command to create a custom middleware. PHP artisan make middleware check admin. Then enter. Second is define the logic in the middleware. In the newly created middleware file here of http middleware check admin.php, add the logic to check the user's role. So here is the example code. Next is third one is register the middleware. In app http kernel.php, add your middleware to the route middleware array. So here is the example code. Then fourth is apply middleware to routes. Finally, apply the middleware to any route you want to restrict. So here is the example code for route. So this ensures that the only users with the admin role can access the admin route. Non-admin users are redirected to the home. Next slide is in terms of scalability, how can Laravel's authentication system be adapted to handle a growing number of users and requests? So give examples like session management or token-based authentication. So first one is session management. So Laravel's authentication system can handle a growing number of users and requests by using scalable approaches like session management and token-based authentication. So here's how. First one is session management. Scaling session, Laravel store user session in the database cache. The database cache or other drivers like Redis, which can handle large numbers of users efficiently. Redis, for example, allows fast in-memory session storage. So here is the example code for configuring Laravel to use Redis for session storage in config session. And lastly is token-based authentication or API. GWT, JSON Web Tokens for APIs Laravel can use token-based authentication. Example, GWT where tokens are issued to users after login and used for subsequent requests. This avoids server-side session storage and scales better distributed system. So that's all for assessment 2. So this is my assessment 3. So first slide is what are the key steps involved in implementing the create operation in Laravel and how do blade views and form handling play a role in this process? So key steps for implementing the create operation in Laravel is first step is set up the route. So define a route for displaying the form and another for handling the form submission. So here is my example code for setting up route for displaying the form and another form for handling the form submission. Next steps is create the controller methods. So add a create method to show the form and a store method to handle the submitted data. So here is my example code. Third step is design the blade view. Use a blade template to display the form. Here is my blade template example. Then fourth is handle form submission. Blade views handle user input through forms and pass the data securely to the controller using CSRF for CSRF protection. Then lastly, save data to the database. So use Eloquent to save the validated data to the database. So the rule of blade views and form handling. So first, blade views is it displays the form and show feedback to the user. And form handling captures users' input, protects against CSRF attacks, and sends data to the controller for processing. In this slide, I will explain to you the importance of data validation and sanitization in CRUD operations, and how does Laravel ensure security when handling user inputs during these operations. So first is importance of data validation and sanitization in CRUD operation. First is it prevents security risks, protects against SQL injection, XSS attacks, and other vulnerabilities. So data validation here ensures the malicious input like SQL commands or harmful scripts cannot be processed by the application. This helps protect your database users from attacks such as SQL injection or cross-site scripting. Next one is ensures data integrity. Ensures only valid and clean data is safe to the database. So by validating user input, Laravel prevents invalid or harmful data from being saved in the database. For example, ensuring email inputs are properly formatted or required fields are not left empty, helps maintain data accuracy and integrity. And lastly is improves user experience, provides clear feedback if the user inputs incorrect or incomplete data. So when users enter incorrect or incomplete data, Laravel's validation system provides clear error messages. This helps users understand what needs to be fixed, improving their experience while ensuring the application only accepts correct data. So how Laravel ensures security? So first is validation. Laravel uses request validate to automatically check your user's input against defined rules. So here is my example code. Next is sanitization. Blade templates escape data output by default, preventing harmful scripts from running. So here is my example code. So next in this slide is I will describe how you would implement the read operation in Laravel to retrieve and display data from the database using both a controller method and a blade view. So implementing the read operation in Laravel, in the controller, you use Laravel's Eloquent ORM to fetch data from the database. So controller method, so the user all here method is retrieves all records from the user's table. Then the compact users function passes the retrieved data to the blade view so it can be displayed. Next is route. You need to define a route that connects the URL, example users, to the controller method. So when someone visits the user's URL, Laravel executes the index method in the user controller to retrieve the and display the data. Next one is blade view. Display the retrieved data in a blade view. The blade view is responsible for showing the data to the user in a clean format like table or list using the for each loop. Each username and email are displayed in a table row, so Blade it automatically skips the output to prevent XSS attacks, ensuring security. So in summary, controller, for the controller, it fetches the data. Then for the route, links the URL to the controller method. And Blade view is for displaying the data securely and user-friendly. So in this slide, what is the purpose of the update operation in Laravel, and how would you handle form submission to modify existing data entries in the database? So the update operation in Laravel is used to modify existing records in the database. It is useful for scenarios like editing user profiles, updating product information, or changing any previously stored data. Or the update operation allows modifying existing data in the database, such as updating a user's profile or changing an item details. So first, how to handle form submission for updates. Number one, retrieve the data. So first, the existing data is fetched from the database using Eloquent. This is typically done using the find method. The find method here, which looks for the record by its ID. So display data in form. After retrieving the data, it passes to the blade view. Oh, next, sorry. Display the data in form. After retrieving the data, it is passed to a blade view where it is displayed in the form. The form is pre-filed with the existing data so users can update it. The form sends the updated data to the server using the put HTTP method, which is specified by method put to indicate it's an update request. Next is handle the form submission. Validate the input and update the record in the controller. So in the controller, after the form is submitted, input validation is performed to ensure the data is correct. Then the update method of the Eloquent model is used to save the changes of the database. So here is the example code. Fourth is route setup. So a route is defined to handle the update requests. The route must be uh, of type put because it updates existing data. So in summary, the update operation allows users to modify existing data. The process involves retrieving the correct data, displaying it in a form, and then updating the record in the database using a controller method. Form submission is handled using the put method, ensuring data is updated securely. So in this slide, I will discuss to you how can you ensure that the delete operation in Laravel is secure and prevents accidental or unauthorized data removal. What role does validation play in this process? So ensuring secure delete operation in Laravel is first, use confirmation dialogues to prevent accidental deletions. Display a confirmation dialog to confirm the user's intent before proceeding with the delete operation. Second is authorization checks. Ensure the user has the correct permission to delete the resource. For example, only admins should be allowed to delete the certain data. So here is the example code. Third one is soft deletes. Instead of permanently deleting records, use soft delete marks. Records as deleted. This allows you to restore data if needed. Then, next is route protection. Use middleware to restrict access to the delete route, ensuring that only authorized users can access it. So the role of validation in delete operation. So validation ensures that the correct data is targeted for deletion. Example, by checking if the user exists. Then the user has permission to delete the specific resource. So that's all, sir, for the assessment 3. And now I will move on to assessment 4. So here is my assessment for enhancing web application security with Google reCAPTCHA in Laravel. So this title is based on the questions, the assessment for. Excuse me for a while. So in this slide, what is the purpose of Google reCAPTCHA and how does it enhance the security of web application when integrated with forms? So purpose of Google reCAPTCHA. First one is I include the definition. So Google reCAPTCHA is a tool designed to differentiate between human users and automated bots. So the purpose is it protects forms from spam and abuse, and also enhances security by preventing automated attacks. And Google reCAPTCHA helps protect web application from spam and abuse by verifying that a user is human, not a bot. When integrated with forms, it prevents automated submission by requiring users to complete tasks like selecting images or solving puzzles, ensuring that only legitimate users can submit the form, thus enhancing security. So this is slide. I will describe the process of obtaining and registering reCAPTCHA. reCAPTCHA site and secret keys from Google. Why is it important to update the domain when moving from local host to a production environment? So the process of obtaining and registering reCAPTCHA site and secret keys is here. The first one, sign in to Google reCAPTCHA admin console. So go to reCAPTCHA admin console and log in using your Google account. So here I provided image. Second is register a new site. Click on get started button here. Provide a label for site, example your project. So you can see here in my images. Choose the type of reCAPTCHA to use, like version 2, version 3, or invisible reCAPTCHA. Then lastly is accept the terms, agree to Google terms or service and click submit. Then receive site and secret keys once registered. Google provides a site key for embedding in your front end and a secret key use served site for verification. And lastly, integrate the keys into your application. Embed the site key in your HTML form or script. Use the secret key in your server to validate reCAPTCHA responses. Importance of updating the domain for production. So when moving from localhost to production, you must update the registered domain in the reCAPTCHA admin console. So this is crucial because first, security. The site key is domain specific. If domain isn't updated, reCAPTCHA won't function on the production site, leaving it vulnerable to spam or abuse. Second is validation. reCAPTCHA responses are verified against the domain you registered. Using the wrong domain causes errors in validation. Third is best practices. It ensures that only requests from your production domain are validated, preventing misuse of your keys by unauthorized domains. So in this slide, I will discuss to you on how to integrate reCAPTCHA into a Laravel form. Outline the steps from installing the necessary package to adding the reCAPTCHA field in the form. So step 1, install the necessary package. First, install a Laravel package that provides an easy way to integrate Google reCAPTCHA. A popular package for this is Adscobo, no-reCAPTCHA. So here is the example package. So step 2 is configure the env file. After installation, you'll need to add your reCAPTCHA site key and secret key to your env file. So here, as you can see, you will put your site key here. and your secret key here. Step 3 is publish the configuration file. Publish the configuration file for the no captcha package to customize setting if necessary. So here is my example. This will create config reCAPTCHA file which you can modify if needed, but defaults are often sufficient. So add a reCAPTCHA to the blade form. Next, add the reCAPTCHA field to your blade view where you want the user to complete the reCAPTCHA challenge. You can use the add CAPTCHA directive provided by the package. So here is my example code. The add CAPTCHA directive will render the CAPTCHA widget where you place it in your form. So next is validate the reCAPTCHA response in the controller. Handling the form submission, validate the reCAPTCHA response. You can use Laravel's built-in validation system to ensure a response is correct. So here is my example code. The reCAPTCHA response is the key that contains the response from the reCAPTCHA widget. And the CAPTCHA validation rule will automatically verify the response using reCAPTCHA API. And sixth step is handle errors and display reCAPTCHA widget. So if the validation fails, Laravel will automatically redirect back to the form with validation. You can use these errors in your blade template as needed. So here is my example code. And 7, ensure your reCAPTCHA keys are correct. Excuse me. So 7 is ensure your reCAPTCHA keys are correct. Double check that your reCAPTCHA site and secret keys in the .env file are correct and ensure that the domain you are using is registered in your Google reCAPTCHA admin console. So next slide is I will explain how to validate reCAPTCHA responses in Laravel and what role do the reCAPTCHA secret keys play in this validation process. So validating reCAPTCHA response involves sending the user's reCAPTCHA response to Google verification API along with your secret key. So the steps are as follows. First is capture the reCAPTCHA response. So I have here my example code. So when a user completes the reCAPTCHA of your form and submits it, the reCAPTCHA widget generates a unique token, which is sent to your server as part of the form data under the key. Under the key GReCAPTCHA, Google reCAPTCHA response. This token acts as a proof that the user interacted with the reCAPTCHA. Next is verify the response with Google, and I have my example code here. To confirm a token is valid, your server must send it to Google reCAPTCHA verification API along with your secret key, and the secret key is used to authenticate your server during this process. So here's how this works. As you can see, a URL www.google.com reCAPTCHA, your secret key from Google reCAPTCHA, then response, the user's Google reCAPTCHA token, then remote IP, the user's IP address for additional verification. Then third one is check the verification result. And I have my example code here. Google response with adjacent check contain the verification result. The key field to check is success, which indicates whether the token was valid and CAPTCHA was solved correctly. So, role of the CAPTCHA secret keys in validation. So, first, authentication. The secret key is used to authenticate your server with Google's reCAPTCHA service. It proves that the request is coming from your application. Second is security. The secret key ensures that your server can validate reCAPTCHA responses without the secret key. The verification process cannot occur protecting the integrity of validation. And lastly, response validation. The secret key works alongside the user's Google reCAPTCHA response to verify that the CAPTCHA was solved correctly and that the response is genuine. So by securely handling the secret key, you ensure that the validation process is trustworthy and not susceptible to spoofing. So in this slide, how I will discuss how can customizing error message for failed reCAPTCHA attempts improve user experience and provide example of how I can handle reCAPTCHA errors in a Laravel controller. So why customize error message? So customizing error message for failed reCAPTCHA attempts improves user experience by first is clarity. It helps users understand how their submission failed. Then second is for guidance, provide actionable feedback example. Please try again. And third one is politeness. It avoids frustration with friendly informative messages. For example, instead of generic error like validation failed, a customized message like it seems you miss verifying the CAPTCHA. Please try again is more helpful and user friendly. So here's how you can handle reCAPTCHA validation with customized error message in a Laravel controller. And I provided an example code here. Bali magkadugtong po sila. Ito dapat nasa baba. Then, basic validation ensures the Google reCAPTCHA response is present before proceeding. So as we can see here. And Google reCAPTCHA verification. The server verifies the token with Google using the secret key. As you can see here. And custom error handling. As you can see here below. As you can see here below. A helper method. Get reCAPTCHA error message maps. Google error codes to user-friendly messages. Then redirect with errors. If validation fails, the user is redirected back with specific error. So some example error message are please complete the CAPTCHA. The CAPTCHA response is invalid or expired. Please try again. And the CAPTCHA verification timed out. Please refresh and try again. So that's all for assessment 4. Thank you. So let's move on to assessment 5, the last one. So what is the purpose of integrating OTP functionality into a Laravel application and how does it enhance security for users? So the purpose of OTP or one-time password integration is first, authentication security. OTPs provide a dynamic code that is valid for a single session or transaction, reducing the risk of unauthorized access. Then second is mitigation of password compromise. Even if a user password is stolen or guessed, an attacker cannot log in without the OTP. Third one is enhancing trust. OTPs reassure user that their account security is robust, especially for sensitive application like e-commerce, banking, or admin dashboard. And next is how OTP enhances security. So integrating one-time password functionality into a Laravel is it serves the purpose of adding an extra layer of security use to user authentication. So first one is prevents replay attacks. OTPs are valid only once and often expire after a short period, making them ineffective or intercepted. Second is multi-factor authentication. Combining OTP with passwords adds a second factor, something the user has like phone or email, making it harder for attackers to gain access. Third is phishing. Phishing resistance. OTPs help counter phishing by requiring a time-sensitive credential, reducing the window for exploitation even if credentials are leaked. Fourth is minimal dependency on static credentials. Traditional password-only authentication relies heavily on the secrecy of static credentials. OTP shift some reliance to a separate dynamic factor. Fifth is compliance. Many regulatory standards like GDPR or PCI DSS encourage or mandate stronger authentication methods, including OTPs, for data protection. So in this slide, I will describe the process of generating and sending an OTP via email in Laravel. What configuration steps are needed in the ENB file to set up email functionality. So here is the step-by-step process to generate and send OTP via email in Laravel. So first is setting up email configuration in ENB file. So Laravel uses SMTP simple mail transfer protocol to send emails. The ENB file contains necessary credentials and settings for your email provider, example email, mailtrap, or SendGrid. So mail or mailer defines the protocol Laravel will use such as SMTP, then mail host and port is specify the mail server and port number for email communication, then mail username and mail password, credentials for logging into the SMTP server, and mail encryption is ensure secure communication, then mail from address and mail from name is define the sender's email and name that appear in the recipient's box. Second is install Laravel Mail. Laravel uses Symfony Mailer for email functionality. Installing the required dependencies ensure that the email feature works properly. So, the running composer requires Symfony Mailer. Here is the example. You add the necessary package to your Laravel project, enabling seamless integration with different mail servers. Third is generate OTP. One-time password serves as a temporary unique code to authenticate the user securely. It minimizes the risk of unauthorized access. So you can generate an OTP in your controller using PHP's built-in methods or libraries. So the rand 10000 and 99999 generates a random digit number. This OTP can be saved in the database along with an expiration time to ensure valid only for a short period. Step 4 is create an email template and run the following command to create a new mailable app class. Here is the example. PHP artisan make mail send OTP. Then update the generated send OTP mail class. Here is the example code. Here is the example code. And create a blade template for email. For example, research views emails, OTP blade. The template OTP blade contains the actual HTML layout of the email. It uses $sign OTP to dynamically insert the OTP. Step 5 is send the email. So in your controller, use the mail facade to send the OTP. So sending the OTP to the user's email provides a secure way to deliver the temporary code. So here's the example code. So mail. So the mail colon 2 specifies the recipient's email address. Then the send new OTP. The send OTP sends the email using the send OTP mailable class, passing the OTP. And 6 is verify the OTP. On the user side, implement a form where they can enter the OTP and validate against the stored OTP in their database. So here is the example code to confirm that the OTP entered by the user matches that one sent to them and that is hasn't expired. So the user submits the OTP via form and the server validates if the OTP matches the one stored in database. And if the OTP is still within the expiration, here, period, once verified, the OTP is cleared from the database to prevent reuse. So why each step is important? First, email configuration is it ensures Laravel can communicate with your email provider. And second, install mail enables the application to send emails programmatically. Next, and generate OTP provides a secure one-time use code for authentication. Then next is email template, makes the user-friendly and visually appealing. Then next is send email, delivers the OTP to the intended user, and lastly, verify OTP, validates the user identity and ensures security by checking the OTP's validity. So in this slide, I will explain on how to integrate an SMS OTP using Twilio in Laravel. What configurations are required in the .env file and the controller to send OTPs via SMS? So step 1 is set up Twilio account, sign up for a Twilio account, and obtain the following credentials from your Twilio dashboard. So you need a Twilio account to access its SMS services. Twilio provides an API to send SMS along with credentials to authenticate requests. So account SID this is like a user name that identifies your Twilio account. Then next one is out token. This is the password that ensures only you can use your account. Then last is the phone number. Twilio assigns you to a phone number to send messages from. Step 2 is install Twilio SDK. Install the Twilio PHP SDK using the Composer, as you can see here in the image. The Twilio SDK makes it easier to interact with Twilio's APIs for sending SMS. So, running Composer require here, as you can see, Twilio SDK installs the official Twilio library for PHP. So this library simplifies the process of making API requests to Twilio servers. Step 3. Configure .env file. So storing sensitive data like API keys in the env file keeps your credentials secure and separate from the code base. It allows for easy changes between environments, development, staging, and production. So, Twilio SID identifies your Twilio account, and Twilio on token authenticates your API request. Twilio phone number specifies the number message will be sent. Step 4. Create the OTP generation logic. In your controller, generate a random OTP, and I have my example code here. First is ensure that phone number is valid before sending or an SMS to prevent errors abuse here. Then Laravel validates the phone number format using the validate method. Then next here is generate a 6-digit OTP. One-time password is temporary code used for the user verification, adding an extra layer and security. So the run 100000 and 99999 here as functions generate a random 6-digit number. This OTP can be stored temporarily in the database or session for validation later. And send SMS. So deliver the OTP to the user securely using Twilio. So retrieves Twilio credentials from .env and uses the Twilio SDKs class to send SMS and the create method here sends the SMS to the user's phone number with the OTP message. So why each step is important? Set up Twilio account. It provides the tools, credentials, and phone number to send SMS. And install Twilio SDK simplifies communication with Twilio's API. And next is configure that ENB ensures secure and flexible handling of the sensitive data. Then generate OTP logic creates a secure one-time code for user authentication, and send SMS delivers the OTP to the user for verification. So by following these steps, you can ensure a seamless and secure OTP process via SMS using Twilio in your Laravel application. So in this slide, I I will discuss how can you handle OTP verification in Laravel, describe the process of validating the OTP and the necessary steps to handle success or failure of the verification. So step 1, collect OTP from the user. Then the user needs a way to input the OTP they receive via email or SMS. So you need a way for the user to input the OTP they receive via email or SMS so that it can be verified. Without this step, the system cannot proceed to the validation process. So I have here my example code. So the user receives the OTP and enters it in a input field. The form is submitted which sends to the validation, and you can create simple form for OTP submission in your front-end HTML, where the user will input the OTP and their identifying information. Example is email and phone number. Step 2 is validate the OTP input to ensure that the OTP entered by the user is in the correct format. Excuse me. Is in the correct format, numeric, and that the email or phone number is filled is valid. This validation prevents invalid, incomplete data from being processed. So here is the example code. So you use Laravel's built-in validate method to ensure that the OTP is numeric value and that the email is formatted correctly. This step ensures that the data is clean before checking against the database. So step 3 is retrieve the stored OTP. So the OTP submitted by the user needs to be checked against all the OTP stored during the initial generation. So to verify the OTP, you need to retrieve the one stored in the database where it was initially generated. So this step ensures you are comparing the user input to the correct OTP. So what is happening? Query the database to retrieve the OTP and associated expiration time for the user. You query the database to retrieve the stored OTP for the user, typically linked to your email or phone number. You also retrieve the expiration time of the OTP if you set one. This step ensures you can cross-check the user entered OTP with the one stored in the database. So here is the example code. Next is step 4, validate the OTP. So you need to compare the entered OTP to the stored OTP and ensure it hasn't expired. This step confirms whether the OTP is correct and within the valid time frame. So here is the example code. So first, check if the user entered OTP matches the stored one. Next is verify the OTP has expired. If you implemented an expiration time, if the OTP is incorrect or expired, the verification fails and you provide feedback to the user. Step 5 is handle success. So after successful verification, the OTP should be invalidated to prevent reuse and the user can proceed to the next step. So here is the example code. Here's the example code. After a successful OTP verification, you clear the OTP and its expiration time from the database to prevent it from being reused. Then you can perform any additional actions such as redirecting the user to a dashboard, logging them in, and completing the password reset process. Next step is handle failure. So inform the user if the OTP is incorrect or expired and guide them to request a new OTP if necessary. And here is the example code. So if the OTP is invalid or expired, you return to an appropriate error message and you may also offer to user the option to request a new OTP. Then returning user-friendly errors help guides the user to the next step in the verification process. So in this slide, um, what are some key customization options available when handling OTPs such as errors, message, or retry attempts, and how can this improve the user experience? So customizing OTP handling for a better user experience is the key customization options for OTP handling is error message, retry attempts, OTP expiry time, OTP reset mechanism, user feedback, and UI design. So I will discuss this to the following slides. First is the error message. So it provides a clearer and specific error message when an OTP fails. Example, invalid OTP, please try again. And it helps user understand exactly what went wrong and how to fix it. So improves your user experience. It reduces frustration, build trust by offering transparency. Second is retry attempts. So custom retry logic, it limits the number of OTP entry attempt to prevent abuse. For example, you have three attempts remaining. After exceeding attempts, lock the account temporarily or request a cooldown period. So improves user experience. It prevents brute force attacks and offers security while still being user friendly. Example, cools down or reattempts limits. Next one is OTP expiry time. So set a custom expiry time for the OTP. Example, 5 minutes or 15 minutes. Um, How it improves user experience, it creates urgency, encouraging users to enter the OTP promptly. Option, display the remaining time to the user. For example, OTP will expire in 2 minutes. Next one is OTP resend mechanism. So it allows user to request a new OTP after expiry or failure. So it provides custom timer before allowing another OTP request. Example, please wait 30 seconds before trying again, or option to resend via SMS or email. So it improves user experience. It eliminates roadblocks if the user didn't receive the OTP or if it expired. And user-friendly as it offers an easy way to resolve issues without restarting the entire process. And last one is user feedback and UI design. So it provides real-time feedback on OTP input. Example, OTP successfully entered. Use visual cues like color green for success, red for error, or icons checkmark for success. Warning failure. Improves user experience, reduces confusion, provides a smooth, intuitive flow for OTP entry. So this is the end of the assessment 5, and thank you for watching, sir. Have a good day.